In our last episode, we defeated a band of Reavers who were attacking Junction City. While there, we recovered a bunch of robot parts, very similar to the one we found at Rock Falls. The Brotherhood needs to understand more about this robotic menace. Had the robot that attacked Junction City not already been damaged by the super mutants, it would have wiped them out without a problem. Let's hope the Brotherhood scribes can figure out what's really going on here. Heading back to Bunker Gamma, we can level up our squad. We earned a bunch of experience in that last mission, and now we have to make some difficult choices. Sounds like we may be fighting robots in the near future, and if that's the case, perhaps all of the energy weapons we found at Junction City are a sign. At the moment, only Oxhorn and Alice have very good energy weapon skills, so I'm gonna start setting the stage now to improve energy weapons for most of my guys here. I got Oxhorn up to 133. Now his small guns and energy weapons are over 130, with over 100 in Doctor and 162 in First Aid. I've turned him into a bit of an energy small guns medic guy. For Harold, I chose the tag perk, which allows me to tag a new skill. And for him, I tagged energy weapons. Dumping all my points into it, this brings him up to 82% in energy weapons. Couple more levels, and he'll be just as good as Oxhorn and Alice. I gave Alice the Action Boy perk and dumped the rest of her skill points into energy weapons, bringing it to 134. Now, Dylan didn't have energy weapons tagged, so dumping points into it right now would be a waste of points. I decided to save them until he has a perk available, at which time I'll grab tag energy weapons, and make him a decent energy weapon sniper. And I made the same choice for Babs. Now, Cookie, well, she didn't really have very good perks initially for the role that I wanted her. She has a bunch of hand-to-hand perks. Really, all she's got that's useful for the role I'm using her is Fast Shot and Action Boy. She had big guns tagged when I got her, but I had to dump a bunch of points into it to bring it up to the 80s. So she still has a lot of work ahead of her to make her a competent big guns character, and quite a ways to go before she could ever be good with energy weapons. So I chose to give her the unique super mutant perk Steady Arm, which means her burst attacks cost one less action point while standing. And then I dumped the rest of her points into big guns. The Browning is still a useful big gun at this stage of the game. Plus, we have the new Vindicator minigun, which dropped in the last mission, and I was itching to test it out. Without her big guns is over 100, which is pretty doggone respectable. Then after selling as much as I possibly could of the loot that we got at Junction City, we walk away with almost $100,000. Hopefully our saving money will pay off in the long run. The Quartermaster has a brand new energy weapon for sale. A plasma pistol. I had to get it for Oxhorn. The Glock 86 plasma pistol, designed by the Gaston Glock AI, shoots a small bolt of superheated ionized gas, powered by a small energy cell. It has a minimum strength requirement of 3. With all of Oxhorn's perks and traits considered, it only costs 1 AP to fire this thing. It does between 15 and 35 damage, with a range of 20. That range is pretty awful, but then again, it is a pistol. However, that damage there is pretty great for a weapon that only costs 1 AP. I can't wait to make good use of it. I also gave him the grenade rifle that we got off the Reavers in the last mission, because I wanted to test it out. Heading to the medical officers, we find that Highland doesn't have anything new to say, though her stock has refilled. But the other one has something to say.
I don't trust Highland. She's too young. And just how can she have been promoted to a full medical officer so soon, huh? I strongly suspect she may have been giving General Decker one of her patented deep cleaning sponge baths, if you know what I mean. A little nudge nudge wink wink, huh? You know? Anyway, she'll screw up soon enough, and we'll see what a hack she really is. In the meanwhile, you have shown your wisdom by coming here to see me instead of her.
Oh, so that's why he harbors animosity towards Highland. But are his suspicions true? Did she really give General Decker a, private inspection? I suppose it's none of our business. Heading to the recruits master, we don't find any new recruits. So we can head to General Decker to find out what's next.
At ease, brother. The time to take the battle to the robots is now. Intelligence has located the origin of the robot that attacked Junction City, and the tracks originated from a pre-war center of industry known as the Great Bend. As our operatives moved closer, they discovered many tracks from different robots, all originating from this mass of burnt-out factories. Lights were seen at a distance, so it's assumed that some of the old power generators are now back online. The elders believe this location is being transformed into a robot manufacturing facility. You will take a squad to Great Bend immediately. If this is the area where the robots are originating, we must strike quickly and shut them down. If our assumptions are incorrect, you will search and destroy any robots you come across. As always, keep an eye open to any information or technology that you come across. Assemble your strike team and leave immediately. Dismiss.
Alright, so this mission is pretty cut and dry. Kill all robots. At last we get to meet our first robot enemies. Hopping into the Hummer, we can make our way to Great Bend. Incidentally, along the way I had my first special random encounter. But I'm not going to cover it here. I'm going to produce a video at the end of this series covering all of the special encounters in Fallout Tactics. If you see a few new faces in the recruits pool that I don't cover in a video, that's why. I'm saving it for my special encounters video. When we arrive at Great Bend, we find our path forward blocked by a semi-truck. Taking a look at the map, we see only one area marked. This is our insertion point and our extraction point after successful completion of the mission. There are no other points of interest on this map. Well, okay, at least we have the map. Let's take a closer look to try and deduce a little bit about this place. The entire map is bisected east to west by a large channel or gully. Maybe it's a road? Then the entire map is bisected north to south by a road. There appears to be a bridge in the road that goes over the gully, but we don't know if it's still intact. And there's another smaller bridge on the western side of the map that does appear to be intact, but looks like we have to navigate through these ruins to get there. The southwestern block appears to have only one real building and a number of fuel containers all over the place. We arrive in the northwestern block that has a few small structures, but most of the bigger buildings are off to the east. The northeastern block has two large buildings, and far to the east we see what appears to be a bit of a junkyard, but the most notable structure is to the southeast. Here we find a large building with a sign on top that says Steelworks, and we see large smokestacks sticking out of it. As part of this facility, there is a smaller building just to the west of it. If this place does manufacture robots, we'll find evidence of it in the Steelworks building. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll go clockwise and clear it block by block. And we don't have to go far to find action. As soon as we move around this big truck, we find a guy here whom we can talk to. But before we can talk to him, we get attacked by nearby robots. They rush us from all directions, and the man we were going to talk to gets killed in the process. So it looks like I have to be a little more subtle. Reloading a save and creeping on over with Oxhorn, we can chat with the guy. His name is Jake.
Shh! Keep your ass down and lower your voice, for God's sake. My name's Jake, and you boys got here just in time. About 2 weeks ago, a whole bunch of those Mr. Handy wannabes shown up and killed anything living they could find. Most of the bubbas around here are now living underground, waiting for them to leave. But believe me, they ain't going nowhere. You better listen to old Jake and stay out of their way.
Talking with him again.
You know, Bubba, I've been living in and around garbage all my life. And one thing you learn about in garbage is ants. Them ants are just like those robots. They march around and do their stuff and work together better than any darn human could. But if you kill an ant queen, the rest of them ants run around like they don't know what to do anymore. That's when you can grab all the ants and make a tasty soup.
Who makes ant soup? But, okay, message received. Looks like one of these robots acts as sort of a hive mind. Maybe our job will be easier if we can find this robot. Talking with him again.
Now, those robots worked real good together, but lately they running around like someone stole their queen. I ain't the smartest bubba in this dump, but I figure you boys be packing those big guns, 'cause you're looking to make some robot soup. Now, I ain't gonna interfere. Nope, not old Jake. But I just want my garbage back, so I'll wish you good luck.
All right. We learned that this robot Ant Queen was already injured, severing its connection with the other robots in the area. They're already running around like chickens with their heads cut off. Now, we find ourselves already in a really tough spot. And just on the other side of a couple of sandbag barricades, we find a robot with an assault weapon who takes shots at anyone who doesn't have good stealth. I only have one good stealth character right now, Babs. She's the only one who can get very close without coming under fire. Additionally, as soon as the robots see us, one of their melee robots beeline straight towards us. And these melee robots are insane. They've got these blades attached to their elbows, and they just rip us to shreds. Killing us in 1 or 2 hits. And on top of that, we really don't have great distance here. I can't set up any of my snipers to be out of range of their ranged attacks. I got through it by sending up Babs in stealth to hide behind these barrels, putting most of my squad against this fence to shoot at any melee mutants who came by. Then I put Cookie prone and sent her to hide behind these barrels. Now, she doesn't have very good stealth, but by lying prone, she can at least get behind the barrels without getting spotted. Then she can sit up and use the barrels as cover. Cookie keeps getting hits with this Vindicator minigun, but the damage is just really disappointing. The same problem I had with the Avenger minigun. I just don't understand why these Gatlings are so awful compared to the Browning. Babs is only doing 3 to 5 points of damage, but she attacks much more quickly and uses far less ammunition. Cookie with her Vindicator minigun is also just doing 5 points of damage. That is, until she gets a crit. Oh, 119 points of damage. I'll take that. Yikes, the disparity between a normal attack and a crit is huge. Well, we got rid of these 3 robots, the 2 melee ones, and the one hiding with a ranged weapon behind the sandbag barricade. We can cautiously move forward to take up advanced positions behind the sandbag barricade. We find a couple of civilian corpses lying in the street, residents of Great Bend who didn't make it out before the robots killed them. This body lying in the middle of the street was empty. The robots aren't using crazy energy weapons like the Reavers were. This guy's just using an FNFAL. And then lying splattered on the sidewalk is Ripley, the prisoner. Oh no, it's Ripley.
Hey, please get me out of here. Please, get me out of here and I'll pay you back someday. I don't have anything to give you now, but if you ever visit my town, Great Bend, just ask for Ripley and I swear I'll make it up to you. Please, please don't let them touch me again.
This was the captive we found held by raiders at Freeport. The captive who had been abused by the raiders. We released her, and she came back home to Great Bend, only to die to these stupid robots. Oh, that's absolutely awful. But true to her word, she does pay us back in her own way, for on her body we find a library of books. A big book of science, a cat's paw magazine, a guns and bullets magazine, a scout manual, Maddox tips and traps, Zen and the art of piloting, and a first aid manual. She was coming back home with all of the knowledge she ever needed to make sure that nothing like what happened at Freeport would ever happen to her again. She was gonna better herself, become better armed, become more knowledgeable, become better prepared to help her family here in Great Bend, to make sure she would never be a victim again. But before she had a chance to read even one book, she was cut down by machines. We can give them to Oxhorn and he can make great use of his comprehension perk. But God, poor Ripley. To the north, we find an elevated platform. Sending in Babs, first we can reconnoiter the area. Her perception picks up a robot on the other side of this chain link fence. But we don't see any robots on the platform above us. To the west of the entrance to the platform, we find more civilian bodies. This one has some armor-piercing 9mm rounds and 4 stim packs. The next one has 1 piece of afterburner gum. I wanted to see if we could use this platform as a bit of height advantage. So sending up Dylan to join Babs. Sure enough, he immediately spots the robot hiding and opens fire. He begins to fire on another robot lying prone on the other side of a sandbag barricade. That robot creeps closer, and our squad opens fire. Bringing Alice around the car. And the plasma rifle does decent damage against these robots. Between 20 and 30 points of damage a pop. Sending her down this alleyway to loot. We can have her explore all of the corners here. We don't really find anything else. So moving the team back to this road, we can set them behind these sandbag barricades. As we send Alice east to loot the dead, we find one more dead civilian. His body is empty, but we pick up a roving patrol of robots on the other side of this gate. They can shoot at us through the fence. And we can shoot back, but these ones at least have energy weapons and they're tearing us up. So I retreated behind the sandbag barricades for now. Babs and Dylan can't reach them from atop the platform, so bringing them back to join the squad, we can send Oxhorn into this building to the north. Sounds like Dylan can take the occasional pot shot at the robots as they patrol this road. We'll just let him do his thing from safety while we explore this room. Inside, we find a bunch of barrels and 2 civilian corpses, both of which are empty. However, against the eastern wall, we find a shelf, and inside the shelf, we find 30 canisters of acid. Acid for use in the modified Supper Soaker. This is ammunition for a weapon that we can only get in a special encounter, so we haven't found it yet. The weapon, incidentally, does great damage against robots, which is why they're providing us with all sorts of ammunition for it on this map. But little good it does us, as we don't have the weapon yet. Then, when done, we can flip the switch against the northern wall. And that opens the gate. The robots are taking shots at the team, but they can't hit any of us. We're behind the sandbag barricade and we're pretty far away. But Dylan, with his high perception, is still able to land his hits. I decided to let him do his thing while Harold goes off to explore this complex just south of us. We saw some electrical wires on the ground and I didn't want to try crossing them, so going around this fenced-off area with a bunch of transformers, it looks like, we can then round it to move west. We don't find a switch or anything we can use to turn off the electricity to remove this hazard, but continuing west, we find another gated-off building, but the gate is locked. So grabbing Babs, we can send her to join Harold and she can pick the lock. Then moving Harold inside, we find a woman sheltering in place. Her name is Nolene.
Hey, I always have time to chat with someone who doesn't want to end my life. Things been pretty dangerous around here with all the robots, but I watched a strange sight about a week ago. One of the robots wandered through one of the derelict buildings and a wall collapsed on it. It was pinned down and trapped. It's still there in one of those buildings, humming away, making all sorts of weird sounds. I think it upset the other robots too, because they all started acting upset, running around and even bumping into each other. Almost act like real people, huh?
Interesting, so this must be the Queen Ant robot that Jake told us about earlier. Sounds like it got injured, but it didn't get killed. So maybe its connection to the other robots wasn't completely severed. I wonder what it's like to fight robots that are fully connected to their Ant Mother. Then she says, those robots kill anyone that get in their way. Kinda like you guys. Haha. Sorry, I've been hanging out with Mike a lot lately. No, we haven't met Mike yet. Has he got a beef with the Brotherhood? Let's find out. In the bookshelf against the eastern wall, we find a paramedic bag, a field first aid kit, some buff-out and some super stim packs. Mike used to be really happy, she says. Gosh, who's Mike and what happened to him? Out of the house, we can explore her backyard. There's a ruined caravan here, but nothing else of interest. Then, as we're about to head back east up the sidewalk, we spy a ladder here leading down into that ditch. Maybe we can use it to skip on over to that lower section. I don't want to explore this now, but we'll have to remember this for later. Bringing Harold and Babs back to the squad, we see that Dylan has done great work. Just letting him do his thing. He's killed at least one robot over here, sending Alice in to inspect. Oh, he's killed 2 robots. Wow. Man, Dylan deserves a medal from the Brotherhood. With this road clear, we can bring the squad in safely. Moving north up the road, we find the northern side blocked in with a bunch of rubbish. Then there's a fence to the west, keeping us from the buildings to the west. We've got to find another way inside. So moving south down the road, we arrive at what should have been a bridge leading to the blocks on the other side of the road, but it's destroyed. We can't cross this way. However, we find sandbag barricades here, and Dylan, with his excellent perception, spots robots on the other side of the gully, and he begins to take pot shots. However, even this far away, whatever weapons they're using can reach us. We see that there is at least one melee robot that wants to gut us, but thankfully the broken bridge is protecting us, and he's just running around aimlessly. Since this guy with the minigun can hit us, I decided to use the sandbag barricade strategically by having Dylan duck whenever he reloads and pop up only when he has the AP to take a shot. This strategy eventually paid off. But there is another one, lying prone, that only Dylan can hit. And so using the same trick, we can whittle him away. And then that melee robot that kept trying to cross the bridge apparently managed to find a way down into the gully. He races right at us, making him an easy target. A fourth pops up behind a box. Well, the robots on the other side of this gully are dead, but we still can't get there. At least we cleared the way for us in the future. For now, we've got to find a way over there. To do so, we can follow this road leading east, and we don't go far before we find even more robots. Dylan starts to take shots, and the whole squad gets charged by a melee robot. We get him, but man, Oxhorn's grenade launcher is doing a bunch of splash damage to us. I'm having second thoughts about that weapon, but there's still one hiding behind a sandbag barricade to the east. He flees east from Dylan's fire and hides behind an overturned car. This gives us an opportunity to move Cookie closer. As we do, the robot comes from concealment and hides behind some tires. I was hoping that Cookie's Vindicator minigun would have better success after closing distance, but it really doesn't. I'm doing 8 points of damage now, 4 points of damage here and there. AP is not a problem. I'm taking shot after shot. Ammo's not a problem. Got tons of it to spare. But the Vindicator minigun is doing less damage than Dylan is with his sniper rifle. I'm just not impressed by it. Crits are amazing, but I can't depend on crits to make good use of this weapon. Maybe I just need a different big guns character. At any rate, he's dead. And we can loot the dead. These robots, for all of their advanced machinery, aren't using very advanced weapons. We've only found one energy weapon so far, a laser rifle used by one robot. This guy was using an M1 Garand. Moving the squad east, we can set them up behind the sandbag barricades. We find a crater in the middle of the road with at least one human corpse lying in it. However, there is a break in the fence to the north. I wanted to see what would happen if we tried to loot the body, so bringing the assault team forward. We come under fire from robots in this nearby garage. So bringing our snipers in and placing them against the southern wall, sure enough, Dylan, at least, begins to take some shots. but he wasn't doing all that much damage, between 1 and 3 damage each shot. The robots inside can also see him and are firing upon him, but they keep missing. At this rate, it was going to take forever. So, getting impatient, I put Babs in stealth and sent her inside to see what we were dealing with. We see a number of bodies all over the place and at least 2 robots inside, which appear to be modified Mr. Handies, shooting lasers at us. But they quickly see through her stealth. So, reloading a save, we can have her skip the garage for now and move west. Here we find a building, and our perception picks up a non-hostile civilian inside. The front door is locked, but picking the lock, we can move in and find a suicidal man who says, "Sometimes I wish those robots would find me." This is Mike. Oh, we found him. Talking with him.
Look, this place is bad enough with these robots. Last thing we need is you Brotherhood bullies moving in. Why don't you take your big brother tyranny somewhere else? I don't know why you would even care about Great Bend. We don't have anything of value here, just garbage and messed up robots. Why can't outsiders just stay on the outside?
Gosh, he really doesn't like us. Must be one of those Brotherhood haters for some reason. Talking with him again.
Hey, just leave me alone! I got no love for you guys after what you did to my sister. All she did was fall in love with some young raider. They were just hanging out. She even convinced him to stop raiding so they could settle down and live like normal people. And then you guys pop up out of nowhere and arrest them both for being raiders and take them to some forced labor camp. She lasted 2 months in that hellhole. Emma was the kindest girl the wasteland's ever known, and I can't even bear to think what was going on in that gulag that made her take her own life. So go take your self-righteous crap somewhere else.
Oh, well, that explains it. Do we really have forced labor camps? I mean, this isn't the first time we've heard about this. I think even General Decker mentioned it once. But crap, does that mean that by working with the Brotherhood, we're going to be enslaving everyone that we don't like? God, I actually sympathize a bit with this Mike guy. In a chest against the eastern wall, we find a big book of science, more of that acid ammunition, and some psycho. After talking with Mike, we understand the graffiti on the side of his little shack here. Brotherhood of Steel, go home. Can't say I blame him. Incidentally, Mike's story here helps us better understand the unique death narration we get from Ron Perlman if we die in the Great Bend.
As your eyes begin to cloud over, you spot Mike, one of Great Bend's inhabitants. You realize that this is the first time you see him wearing a smile.
As we continue to explore to the west, we find another garage. Peeking inside, we don't see anyone until we move inside, whereupon we find more civilian bodies and 3 more robots. But they quickly see through Babs' stealth. Racing her outside, we can try to run for cover. Oh, it's more than 3 robots. Man, that's a lot of big guys there on the ground. After avoiding them, we can head back in stealth and climb this ladder on top of the garage. We don't find anything up here, but Babs begins firing upon the robots through these windows against the eastern wall. Looks like a safe place to shoot from, but she's not doing a lot of damage, and after a while the robots kind of roll out of the way. Bringing her down, this big robot is hugging the wall, trying to get at us. But there are windows even in this lower wall, and Dylan from way across the way is taking shots at the guy. As soon as Bab gets on the ground, she too shoots through the windows at this guy, but he quickly figures it out. And out the garage door he comes. Sending Babs back up the ladder, we can have her stand here, out of harm's way. These big robots are loaders. They don't have any long-range weapons. They're purely melee robots. And so from the safety of this rooftop, both Babs and Dylan can pick this guy off. But man, they were taking a long time. I brought Alice down with her plasma rifle to see if she could find a gap in this fence anywhere. Sure enough. Wow, The damage a good energy weapon can do against these guys is so much better than those sniper rifles. 38 points of damage she did with her plasma rifle to see if she could shoot through it safely, and she could hit the other loader inside, but he quickly moved away, and she didn't have the range to reach the Mr. Handies at the back of the garage. And so I tried bringing the party inside by skipping the first garage for now. As they cross the garage to get to the other side, they take fire. And they get beat up pretty bad, bringing them to the rooftop here to join Babs. Sure enough, the squad begins firing through the windows. But the robots inside can fire back, and Babs gets liquefied. So, reloading a save, to just after we killed the loader, we can bring Babs down. I decided to try a frontal assault, so bringing the team to the front door. Oh, we get melted in no time at all. These robots do insane damage with their laser weapons. They're not messing around. So I tried to find some other way, any other way to access these two buildings without going in through the front door. It was then that Babs found a tiny alleyway between the two buildings. Squeezing on through, we arrive behind them, but we don't find a door. We do find a balcony on another building that we can't explore. It's off the map, but the balcony has a ladder on top of it. However, it doesn't reach the ground, so we can't access it. So no, there's no other way into these two buildings than through the front doors. So I resigned myself to just using Dylan to pick shots at them, putting Alice and Harold on either side of this fence opening just in case they come out. We can start to fire with Dylan. Sure enough, it lures one robot out. But the other one is stubborn. He doesn't want to move. So leaving Dylan here to do his business, eventually he destroys it. With all the robots in this garage dead, we can finally loot the civilian corpse lying in the middle of the road. And on his body we find some mentats. We can then loot the civilians lying in the garage door. One is empty, the other has afterburner gum. And then at last we can move the squad inside this garage. It does appear to be a production facility, but we don't find any robots under construction, so we're still not certain if this place actually made robots. We find another civilian lying dead, and on her body is a Browning auto rifle. Hey, a new weapon. The .30 caliber Browning automatic rifle was adopted by the U.S. Army in 1918 as a squad automatic weapon, despite its small magazine, for over 30 years. I wonder why we find so many World War I and World War II era ballistic weapons in the Fallout Tactics universe. It has a minimum strength of 5 and requires 30-06 ammunition. It does between 18 and 32 damage with a range of 28 and an ammo capacity of 20. It's not bad, but compared to many of the other weapons we have already, it doesn't really stand out either. The FN-FAL, for example, in burst mode is comparable. It does better damage, the same maximum damage, and even better minimum damage, but it has the same range and the same ammo capacity. So not exactly sure why I would ever use the Browning auto rifle compared to the FN-FAL. These robots, sadly, were using their built-in weapons. They don't drop any new energy weapons, but we can loot the microfusion cells from them, and they drop a stack of nearly 40 each. Nice. There is a staircase against the northern wall. Heading upstairs, we find a door that leads to a nearby office. It's locked, but Babs can pick it. Heading inside, we find another civilian corpse. Looting a shelf against the northern wall, we find 2 super stim packs, some mutie, and some booze. Then looting the body, we find an H&K cause, some flechette shotgun shells, armor-piercing 9mm ammunition, and 4 stim packs. But we don't find a door up here that leads to the western building. Oh, we gotta go through that front door as well. I wanted to examine that alleyway one more time, just in case I missed it, sending Dylan in. I didn't miss anything. However, his perception picks up a number of robots milling about in this junkyard to the east. We can't shoot at them through this fence, though, but at least now we know what to expect. So bringing the squad over to the western building, we can try to come up with a strategy. I placed my assault team just on the other side of the door in case any of those loaders came through. And then with Dylan, we have a small window that we can shoot through at just the right angle to hit some of these Mr. Handies. What I didn't realize at the time is that we can actually target these oil drums, which would have made this easier, but instead, I just kept picking them off. With that one down, we've got one left. It was really hard to find the right angle, but at last, I finally did. But then the robot runs out of microfusion cells, and it charges. That's where the assault team comes in. With the robots dead, we can finally move inside. The load lifters don't have anything on their inventory, and even though the security robots ran out of ammunition and charged us, we still find microfusion cells on their wreckage. Looting the dead civilians, we find one piece of afterburner gum, some shotgun shells, and a stim pack. And then heading upstairs to loot the next body, Dylan begins to shoot through the windows. He's able to target the robots that are loitering around in the junkyard. As soon as he opens fire, 3 melee bots charge. But of course, they can't get us through the fence. However, the others have long-range big guns, and they are able to hit Dylan from here. So bringing in Oxhorn, we can quickly heal up Dylan before he dies. They're close enough, however, that the rest of the squad can actually make some hits. So bringing the whole squad up to the windows, we can begin to pick them off. However, the squad keeps getting hit too. So it was a game of running Oxhorn from squad member to heal them up before they die. We find one locker up here inside, some booze and plasma grenades, but then some of the melee robots begin to stand up, and when they do, the squad sees them, so we can stand here patiently until we destroy them. That's most of them, but we do know there are a few more in there that are still hiding. They're too deeply entrenched, and I wasn't about to sit here all day. With these buildings clear, we find no other way forward except to go back to the road. From the road, we find a break in the fence to the north. Moving the squad forward, Dylan doesn't take any shots. The area must be clear. Sending Babs and Dylan east, we find a bunch of wreckage blocking our way. We find another ladder leading to the gully below, but we'll come back and explore it later. Moving forward, we see that the wreckage truly does block our way. We can't move any further east down the road, but we do see a woman lying on a bed on the other side of this rubbish. We'll have to find a way to talk to her. Blocking our way north is a bunch of rubbish. We can use Harold and his grenades to destroy it. Then having our snipers in place, we can move the assault team deeper in. This is the junkyard. We find rusting hunks of metal and barrels all over the place. And as we get closer, we find robots to the north and robots to the east. Hiding most of the squad behind these barrels, we can try to lure them closer with Cookie. As they get closer, Dylan and Babs begin to take shots from the south. They hunker down for cover, and we can take the opportunity to race in with the assault team. That all of these robots are down. We see that we are on the other side of that fence that we shot at them from while in that western building. There's a lot of containers and stuff to loot here, but I wanted to clear the junkyard first. Moving the team east, we find a maze of junk and rubbish. It's a little tricky to navigate here. We see a campfire in a nook below us and more pathways to the north and east. Moving north for now, we round a corner to find more robots. We're down. Harold almost got killed. From here we see a pathway to the east that then turns south, but sending a scout down, we find more robots under cover. I wanted to come up behind them, so turning around, we can wind through all of this junk and surprise them from the west. and Harold's got like 1 HP left. That's because he leveled up in combat, and the Reaper appeared in combat to cut him down. With the junkyard clear, we can begin to loot the dead. We find a dead civilian lying here. She has a field first aid kit and some Nuka-Cola. Against a northern wall, we find a refrigerator with some super stim packs inside. And then on one of the robots, we find a plasma pistol. I guess I didn't need to buy one for Oxhorn, but he's already put it to good use. Moving west, we can loot the wreckages of the robots we killed through the windows of the other building. We find another plasma pistol on one. We find another dead civilian with stim packs and armor-piercing 9mm ammunition. But that area with the burning campfire is completely empty. Nothing interesting here. So with the junkyard clear, we can move out a gap in the fence to arrive back on the road. And at last, we can move west to talk with that lady who was lying on the bed.
Look, Joe, I've been hooking here for 50 years now. My ass has seen more rubber than a dead rat in the middle of Route 66. I thought I've seen just about everything, but then these robots come in and they kill all my customers. Now the only time I lay on my back is to go to sleep.
Okay, she's a hooker, an experienced one. We can barter with her. She has an assortment of chems and nudie mags, of course. Talking with her again.
The worst thing about these robots are they couldn't recognize a sweet piece of ass like myself. It's like they ain't got no dick. Believe me, sweetheart, after 50 years of shaking my ass, I got it down to a science.
Well, what do you expect from a robot? They're not programmed for love.
Do you know Lance Squad? I did them all and charged them my corporate rate. I can do the same with you folks, girls and guys. And believe me, after 50 years of practice, it ain't gonna be too boo-coo.
I can still ride you into the ground, she says. My mom was a hooker too. I'll tie my breasts in a knot for some script. Turned my first trick 50 years ago. I can suck start a tank. Well, despite her kind offer and her apparent experience with Brotherhood soldiers, we can instead walk away quickly. We have now cleared the entire northern section of the map. All we have left to do is explore the southern section and this ditch that bisects the entire map, bringing Dylan south. He manages to get a few shots off across the ditch. So we've got robots over there. At least 3, probably more. Moving him to the bridge, we see that they're protected by a gate. Alright, so in order to shoot over there, we'd have to find just the right angle to shoot through a hole in the gate. We find the body of a raider on the bridge. On his body, a plasma rifle and ammunition. Well, we know that at any time we can cross this bridge to the southern side, but I wanted to see what awaits us in this ditch. So taking the squad back through the junkyard, we can move back to one of the ladders we saw earlier. Taking the entire squad down, we can first move north up the ditch. Here we find the splattered corpse of a raider, and on his body, wow, a bunch of ammunition, some psycho, super stim packs, and a Bren gun. This British adaptation of a Czech design was adopted as the standard light machine gun of British and Commonwealth forces in 1938. The .303 caliber Bren was among the most liked and respected weapons available to the British in World War II due to its exceptional ruggedness, accuracy, and simplicity, and remained in service with British forces for almost 50 years. It has a minimum strength requirement of 7 and it weighs 26 pounds. It does between 20 and 30 damage, with an impressive range of 40 and an ammo capacity of 30. So the FNFAL bests it in terms of damage, but this one does have better range, significantly better range, and 10 better ammo capacity. The rareness of its ammunition, however, may not make it a practical weapon. We can't go any further east, so turning around, we can follow the ditch to the west. Along the way, we spot something. A hole against the northern wall. Moving in Oxhorn, he can crouch down. Creeping through the hole, he discovers a tunnel. Crawling through the tunnel, at the end, he finds a staircase. And climbing up the stairs, we emerge... Oh, in Mike's hut. Oh, how did I miss this staircase earlier? So this would have been one way to get to this side of the compound without crossing that first garage door. though I don't know what use it would have been to us, as we still have to go through the front doors to kill the robots inside. Well, it's no use to us anymore, so bringing Oxhorn all the way back, we can grab the squad and continue south down the ditch. We arrive at the broken road where Dylan stood and destroyed so many of those robots. We find a gap in this rubble to the south that the entire team can squeeze through except for Cookie, of course, because she's a big super mutant. So bringing her up, we can have her go around through the electrical transformers and down that second ladder. Here we can loot the wreckage of the robots that Dylan destroyed earlier. Continuing west, we arrive at that first ladder down into the ditch that Harold and Babs found. But then, the team picks up movement from a building to the south. One loader dead. Here we find a ladder leading up. Moving the squad up, we find a gate in this fence, but it's locked. However, I brought Babs to try and pick it, but it does nothing. Oh, great. We can't pick this lock. We've got to flip a switch, which means we came all the way down here for nothing. To get to this lower section, we've got to go all the way back east and cross the bridge. So, grabbing the squad and moving them all back east, we can cross the bridge. Heading through the open gate, we immediately spot a melee robot. But he goes down quick. However, he has friends off in the distance. One with a sniper rifle. Creeping closer to get a better shot, we round a corner to find two more. One hiding behind barrels, and the other behind a sandbag barricade. So we can position our squad so that they're safe, and have Dylan bear the brunt of this work. I didn't realize till it was too late that there's an explosive tank behind this sniper that we could have shot to make this a much quicker encounter. But ultimately, Dylan does the job. I tried to lure this guy out with Harold, but he just didn't want to budge. So, we can just race in. We knock him back into cover, so Cookie can run up and finish him off. We don't see any doors on this side of the building. However, on the southern side of the map, we find an alleyway between the fence and the building. Moving west, we reach one of the smokestacks, and rounding a corner, we find more robots. Like we have two buildings here to explore, one to the west and one to the east. I wanted to see what was down this alley. Maybe we could climb onto a roof somewhere. We find a fire escape, but the ladder is drawn. We can't get up there. And rounding a corner, we arrive at a fence. But then Dylan takes a shot. Oh, well, that was easy. Something died in there. Heading inside, it's, a pacification bot, and it's crushed by a big concrete tube. This must be the robotic ant queen that the civilians were talking about. He was injured, lying here immobile. Took only 2 shots to kill. I wanted to see what he looked like before destroyed, so I reloaded a save, but he didn't look a whole lot different. He's pretty much mangled here. He has very little life. Just outside, we find a switch, which opens a gate in the fence to the west. And then heading back in, we can kill him again. And down he goes. His inventory is empty. And that's it for this section of the Steelworks. Looks like we need to move west to finish exploring, but we need to backtrack and explore these 2 buildings first. Going into the nearest building, we find a bunch of crucibles, none of which appear to be functioning right now. We can't access them anyway. No containers, no more enemies. Heading out, we arrive at the battle scene by the smokestack, and then moving into the next building, we find a huge garage filled with loaders. But these guys are pretty slow. They chased Oxhorn for quite a ways, allowing me to adequately test out my new plasma pistol. And holy cow, my AP refills faster than I can consume it with this thing. But still, their HP is so high that they're all still alive by the time I drag them back to my squad. And they're done. But we still haven't completed the objective. There must be more robots here. Heading back to the building where we found these guys, we can finish exploring it to see if we can find any boxes or chests or anything, but we don't. There is a big square hole filled with apparently molten metal. In the northeastern corner, we find a corpse, and on the body is a toolkit and a monkey wrench. Next to it is another corpse, and on this body are small energy cells and a kettle prod. At last, we finally find some containers, 2 lockers against the northern wall. In the first, a super stim pack, an ultra stim pack, and 2 paramedics bags. In the second, a full suit of environmental armor Mark II. But that's it for all the buildings in this section, and that's it for the Steelworks. Did we find any evidence that the machines were using Great Bend to manufacture more robots? I don't really know if we did. Gathering the team together, we can head through the gate. And we don't find much resistance. Remember, Dylan killed all of these guys while standing on the other side of the bridge towards the beginning of the mission. We find 1 dead super mutant here, and on his body are some 50 caliber rounds. Moving north, we can loot Dylan's dead, and while we do so, we get charged by what apparently is a melee-only robot. He just sort of casually walks our way, doesn't pull out a weapon or anything. As he approaches the barricade,
You have reduced all the robots to scrap metal. You may proceed to the exit grid.
there we go. That was the final robot. The robots in this street weren't carrying any weapons we haven't already found, and this last robot's inventory was empty, disappointingly. Moving in, we can finish exploring before we leave. We find a civilian body here with Buff Out and Mutie. We see that destroyed load lifter that Dylan shot from the gully, and this gate is now open, of course. We see that the entire border of the map is now green. We can use any point as an exit grid. We don't have to go to our insertion point, contrary to directions on the map. There is one little shack here. Inside is empty. We find a ladder leading to the roof, but this also is empty. We find an elevated platform covered in pipes, but this is also empty. However, we can use it to get to the other side of this fence. At the end of a series of sandbag barricades, we find a switch. Pressing it. Were we supposed to use this to kill the robots? I mean, I suppose it would work great for the loaders and the other melee robots, but the ones with guns wouldn't have fallen for it. Well, we don't want to kill our entire squad, so turning it off, we can bring our squad around and run them through. But then I realized that, well, I just had to see this thing in action. How exactly does it kill people? So turning it on, we can run a character through. Effective! Well, let's do the rest of them. There you go, that's how it works. A cleverer player than me would be able to use this against the robots. But I just let Dylan do the whole thing. When done, we can head west to access the exit grid.
Welcome, warrior. At ease. You have done well clearing the robot infestation from the Great Bend. We don't know how long until the robots attempt to re-establish a manufacturing plant there, but Smear and Falcon Squad will share standing watch in this region until we can heavily trap the area. Data collected from your report indicate a damaged robot in the area might have been the controlling force for the other robots. We believe the robots can act independently, but are more efficient when a governing robot coordinates their actions. This analysis is far from complete, but might be instrumental in defeating this foe when more data is acquired and analyzed. You are dismissed.
We are now one step closer to better understanding this robotic menace. We can head back to Bunker Delta, rest up, heal up, and prepare for the next mission. But sadly, I'm all out of time. We'll pick up right here where we leave off in my next episode. I publish new Fallout videos each and every week on my channel, so if you don't want to miss my next episode, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. If you have already, but you still feel like you're missing out on YouTube notifications, consider following me on Twitter at Oxhorn. I update Twitter manually with every new piece of content that I publish. I've got a shirt shop with completely unique designs that you can't find anywhere else. My designs come on shirts in a variety of men's, women's, and children's sizes, and in a wide array of colors. You can find them on other products as well, like smartphone cases, pillows, posters, mugs, stickers, prints, etc. So if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming a patron on Patreon or a member here on YouTube. YouTube members and patrons on Patreon gain access to a private channel on my Discord server, and YouTube members get little badges next to their names in the comment sections of my videos, and access to ox emojis, which they can use during the live chats of my live streams. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with more brand new videos.